Time now for the Sunday Talk, where we tap into the debate of the week. This week, the war between Donald Trump and the media. The latest round sparked by those reports. An unverified dossier suggested Vladimir Putin had spied on and had the goods to blackmail Trump. CNN went first, reporting that Trump had been briefed by intelligence officials that an unverifiable report claimed he might have been compromised. Shortly after, Buzzfeed went much further, publishing the entire document, full of salacious details, while saying the information was not proven and contained errors. Trump pounced.
It was a group of opponents who got together, sick people, and they put that crap together.
The media started attacking each other.
What should come true first, truth or transparency?
It is a luxury to choose. And
why is that a luxury?
Truth
or transparency? How is truth not first?
For Trump, it was another excuse to step up the war against reporters he doesn't like. CNN.
You are attacking our news organization.
Your organization,
Can you give us a chance
Let's
to
go.
ask a question?
Don't be
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. You are fake news.
And Buzzfeed.
A failing pile of garbage. Writing it, I think they're going to suffer the consequences.
And now a senior Trump advisor says it's time to, quote, break the media.
They can close down the elite press. They can create totally new venues for informing the American people. They can go to Facebook and to YouTube.
The media's role is supposed to hold the powerful to account. But after so many misread the election, American journalists are more vulnerable to attack.
The fact is that the media have a 16% approval rating for a reason. It's been earned. And it's crap like this that really undergirds why Donald Trump won.
I'm joined by our panelists. Jonathan Kay is editor-in-chief at Walrus Magazine. Stephen Marsh is a culture writer with Esquire. And Adrian Batra is editor-in-chief of the Toronto Sun. Sounds like crap is the word of the day. Adrian, if there is actually a war here, who's winning?
Well, I think Donald Trump is winning. And I think Donald Trump won all throughout the primaries. He battled against his own party. He battled against the media. He battled against the Clintons. And he still won. And even after he won the presidency, we all remember hearing about how he gathered all the media together. They all came to Trump Tower, all the New York Times, CNN, everybody that was important, Washington Post. And he gave them an epic tongue lashing. Some came out of that, Wendy, and thought, well, maybe this is going to be an opportunity now for both sides. And maybe the Trump people to think, hey, maybe they're going to start covering him fairly. Well, all gloves are off and all bets are off. And frankly, one of the things that we have the most significant comparison to is here in Canada with, the late mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford, and the Toronto Star.
And you were his communications advisor.
I was his communications director at the time. And for our purposes of the campaign, it worked very effectually for us to be against the Star. We needed an opponent. We needed someone to really run against, and they were a great foil for that. It's working for Donald Trump, and I think it's going to continue to work in his favor, and his supporters love it.
I mean, I couldn't agree more that the American media should take the lessons of Rob Ford to heart. But the point is not that the Toronto Star was a foil. The real disgrace that Canadian media has never recovered from, may never recover from, is that an American website had to come in and tell us that we had a crack-smoking mayor, right? That it was not that the media was not respectful enough of Rob Ford. They were way too respectful of Rob Ford.
So you think BuzzFeed did the right thing in putting all the
did.
details in there?
This is a report that is being handled at the highest levels of national security agencies the world over. That in itself makes it newsworthy. John McCain is bringing it to the leaders of the intelligence community.
But he said he didn't know whether it had any
doesn't matter.
veracity.
We have a right to know what is being said between John McCain and the leaders of the intelligence community. And, there's absolutely no way that getting less information about Donald Trump somehow is going to make the world safer. It just
I'll let you
isn't.
back in a moment, Adrian, but John, what's your stance?
Look, I think it's a bad move from BuzzFeed because, I love having information, but the problem is the media was hated by Trump and his followers, but at least it had the moral high ground. As soon as that dossier was published, not only were they hated, but a lot of people said, well, now they've lost the moral high ground too because they've published fake news, or what a lot of people allege is fake news. So you have to pick one.
In what world does BuzzFeed ever have the moral high ground. That's not the game they play.
But they are a media outlet who has put this out there. But here's why it's effectual for Donald Trump. Because rather than some horrible foreign power, as worse as it gets, the Russians may have something on the president-elect of the United States. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the fact that the viper pit of media going after each other now, based on whether or not someone did or did not publish fake news. It's working for him.
This is the media's favorite subject, is what should the media do?
Oh, I know, exactly. But again, speaking to what Ms. Conway just said in your clips, Wendy, this is part of the reason why Donald Trump is where he is.
Yeah, but that's based on the assumption that the media is biased and out to get Trump. Are they, or are they just doing their job?
I think it's nuanced, because on one hand, the media has been very much in favor of Donald Trump because they know he gets clicks and they know he gets viewers. And at every opportunity, they've published Donald Trump news. It was exactly the same thing with Ford. I mean, I worked at the National Post at the time. And I think at one point, the top 21 stories on our website at the height of the scandal were all about Ford.
Front page Ford.
Amazing days.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we loved him for all the clicks he got, but the news coverage was completely condescending and disparaging and insulting. And if you were Rob Ford's staffer and you looked at it, it's true, we looked like a bunch of elitists who were mocking this guy. And
he was smoking crack.
I know he was smoking crack.
Let's be clear, he wasn't doing that the entire time,
He was
Stephen.
chugging vodka and driving through the city.
There was a period of time in his mayoralty when things went awry. It was crazy. There's no doubt about it.
So what are we supposed to do? Say, oh, we should have a respectful attitude towards the mayor chugging vodka and driving through the city. I'm sorry. Let's be real.
You have to be nuanced. You can't just say, are we pro-Trump? Is the media pro-Trump or anti-Trump? I think they're pro-Trump in terms of his utility in getting viewers, but they're completely anti-Trump in terms of the condescending attitude we have toward it. By the way, I share that condescending attitude. I think the guy's a pig. But it's true that when you read the New York Times, when you look at MSNBC or anything like that, it's true that it comes off that you have elitist media types like us going after a guy who we hate.
And the bias is there. The bias exists. You saw the outgoing president with his farewell speech, and just there's fawning coverage on him.
Because Obama is a gentleman and an amazing person.
And he's also an outgoing president.
There's also
he can do no more harm. But you see clicks you see on various American media websites, mainstream. This picture of Michelle and Barack Obama will melt your heart. So I mean, it's a bit precious to suggest that they had not been.
But is it right for a
president-elect
to refuse to take questions from a reporter because he doesn't like the question?
I don't agree with it. I'm not saying I agree with this strategy.
A dictator.
Oh, well, I wouldn't even go with that to that degree at all. He still took many questions from many other media outlets during that entire press conference.
He didn't just refuse to take a question. He and his team have more or less been threatening CNN.
Well, they gamely argued there, too, as they stood there.
I mean, but that's the creepy part. I mean, the idea that the President of the United States or the incoming president will now essentially be picking favorites. This is what Putin started to do many years ago. He basically turned the press into a tool of his own propaganda.
Yeah, but I don't think that's even close
Gingrich is talking.
possible.
What Gingrich said was, let's do the Erdogan,
break the
Putin,
media.
Let's break the media. We're going to break the media. They're moving them out of the White House,
but that's just an irresponsible thing to say, and I think that you get into
Except
the moment,
these
but I
people
just
are
do
in
not
power.
believe for a
So
moment
where is
that
this
that's actually going to
elitist
happen.
view that you have that they're irresponsible for what they're saying?
Well, I think
either
what
we believe what
Buzzfeed
they
did
say
was
or don't.
extraordinarily irresponsible to the point where they even had to put at the top of their website when they published this dossier, this is unsubstantiated and unverified information. I mean, when you have MSNBC going after Buzzfeed, it's pretty extraordinary. So I guess my broader point is that it just feeds into that narrative that everybody distrusts whatever is coming out of the media regardless. That's where it boils down to.
If freedom of the press is important for democracy, what happens when the people, as you're arguing, don't trust the media anymore?
I think it's wrong to say the people don't trust the media. I think the people who read the New York Times or read the New Yorker or read their Canadian equivalents, I think they do trust the media.
They're not trusted as much as they used to be, particularly after the coverage of the last election and misreading so much.
It is true that elites in society in all sectors, religion, business, media are distrusted, but we're in this weird world where it's the educated, intelligent people who have the most trust in the mainstream media, and it's the people who have the lowest information who have the least, who are extremely distrustful of the media, and they're getting their stuff from fake news.
So now what, Stephen? I mean, do we just publish everything, whether we know it to be true or not?
If this continues, a vital arbiter of civil society will collapse in the United States. I mean, that is what is at stake, and I don't think we should be at all we should at all mollify that. Like that
But
is
isn't
what.
publishing unverified information harmful to that institution?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're in a world of total distortion, right? I mean, we're not dealing with a world where you can verify all claims, right? I mean, you're dealing with a world of, Watergate was not verified for 3 years, right? It was all anonymous sources until very, very late in its
But
story.
the Washington Post knew who the source was. And we're talking to the source, a very different
Absolutely.
Well, BuzzFeed also knows who the source is.
But they haven't been talking to the source, as far as we know, didn't identify.
But they identified that. I mean,
But they also identified
it's a question
the,
of the
a wrong
nature
person.
of the truth claim.
But they also
right?
identified the wrong person that was supposedly in Russia at the time that this was all going on. But look, I'm not going to be as hysterical about this because I don't believe that this is the end of free speech and free democracy and free civilization as we know it just because Donald Trump is in the White House. I think that there is a contention that is there. He is going to have challenges with the media, but they're going to continue to report on him. He's going to continue to go over their heads and go straight to the people and speak to them directly.
It is the end of something. It's the end of, I think, at least as far as the White House goes, the idea that there's a priestly class of journalists who interprets current events for ordinary people. And that Trump has decided that he's just going to use Twitter or the YouTube, as Gingrich calls it, to go straight to ordinary people who can be easily duped with idiotic propaganda. That's their strategy. And by the way, it looks like it's working.
And so if the people don't want to be dictated to by the philosopher-king class to do all that interpretation for them, then that's the situation that we find ourselves in. But I prefer to give people far more credit than that. Now I don't think that there is as much hysteria because if you look at the people who voted in for Donald Trump, Jonathan, it wasn't just those angry. There weren't enough angry white guys in the U.S. to get him elected.
It was angry, dumb people of all skin colors. I mean, it was just.
Well put.
48% of women voted for him. Like,
Okay,
I mean, there's.
we got to
this
get
is
to
about
one
gender.
last.
It's not
Stephen,
about
I'm going to
gender.
give the last word to you. Where is this heading? Like, I'm not
Very
sure
dark
whether you're
place.
arguing towards
Look, I mean-
publishing fake news or just letting it all out there.
Well, no, but I think when you have vital information on the president and information that is being circulated among, senators and intelligence people, it is the job of journalists to bring that to the public. Absolutely. I mean,
But that's what CNN did, was say that there is this information that's been handed on. Should you then publish all of the details?
I would say that the press has many levels. And sometimes the press is very high, and it is indeed this priestly caste. And on the other hand, there's the gutter press. And the gutter press serves a very important function. For example, Gawker, which was the gutter press, and which got shut down by Peter Thiel, who was one of Trump's essentially henchmen. They have shut down the ability of that publication to report these kinds of stories.
And now BuzzFeed
that is a big loss for democracy.
is under fire, and we'll see where this goes. It's not the last round. Thanks so much. We're out of time.
Thank you.